Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, February 8th, 2016.
Commissioner Davis, Rodriguez, James, repenting and assent are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Russ Drizella, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Tim Dafera, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Michael Patney, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Jeff Costa, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we received a comment card on public's general comment and no speaker cards on any of the regular items for today's agenda.
Okay, then let's go ahead and do general public comment. Bobby Pepe? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners and the rest of you. I have some notes here. Anyway, with all the social, environmental, health, and aesthetic benefits that a healthy tree canopy provides for all strata of our Los Angeles community, why does the city do nothing to stop the harm perpetrated by billboard companies such as Outfront Media USA against our urban tree canopy? The city agencies that are tasked with monitoring and caring for our urban forests actually facilitate this destruction through the permitting process. With that in mind, consider the harm done by Outfront Media USA to our Silver Lake neighborhood. During the quiet week after Christmas Day 2015, to clear the sightline for their billboard above the building at 3701 Sunset Boulevard, 9 trees were topped per the direction of Outfront Media USA executives. Tim Fox, a general manager at Outfront Media USA, recently admitted to this act of vandalism at a community meeting. According to a supervisor from your own urban forestry division, 3 trees must be replaced, 3 are going to be on life support, and 3 will take several years to recover. No permits were pulled by Outfront Media USA, and regardless, the topping of trees is not allowed per Bureau of Street Services guidelines. We urge this board to call for a hearing on this matter before a BSS adjudicator to seek compensation and punitive damages for this act of vandalism to our trees in Sunset Triangle Park and Polka Dot Plaza by Outfront Media USA. Why does the city do nothing to stop the harm billboard companies such as Outfront Media USA commit against the Los Angeles urban forests on a daily basis? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for coming to City Hall this morning. Any other speaker cards for general public comment?
That closes.
Okay, then that will conclude general public comment. Our first item of business, the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, January 22nd, 2016. Is there a second to my motion that we approve that by Commissioner Rodriguez? Any objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved. Agenda item number 1, oral report from the Department of Transportation regarding a Vision Zero update, Executive Directive number 10. And I understand that Salita Reynolds is here. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Salita. Salita, I just want to thank you for reaching out about having this conversation. I know it's very important that as departments, we really, under the mayor's direction, have been very collaborative in our efforts to make sure that we're meeting all of our needs and our objectives in the city, but this one is particularly important. I've commented previously, since Salita's arrival to the Department of Transportation, I've seen more bike lanes than I've ever seen, and it's impressive to see, but as a result of that, we have a lot of work to do in terms of coordination to ensure the safety of so many of our pedestrians, our riders, and so I just want to thank you for being here this morning and for being such a collaborative partner in helping to help the city move forward. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Vice President Rodriguez. President James, thank you for allowing me to come and share this information with you. We are trying to get the word out inside the city about this very important policy initiative. It was the mayor's 10th executive directive. Public Works, all of the bureaus of Public Works are key partners for us. And as you'll see as we go through the presentation, more and more of these decisions are going to come before this board for discussion and consideration. And and more of these projects are going to be developed, delivered, and designed by the Public Works bureaus. And so that raises the bar for us in terms of the level of collaboration among our departments, which is already very good. And it also becomes more important for everybody to sort of be rowing in the same direction. So I'm going to give you a little bit of just a briefer on what Vision Zero is, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and who's involved, and then happy to take any questions that you might have. So the sort of bottom line on Vision Zero is to get to zero traffic deaths by 2025. And this is a photo from the press conference when the mayor issued the executive directive back in August. We are fast approaching the first milestone of the executive directive, which is in early March, where we need to be able to show progress and delivery on about 15 near-term actions, many of which are either led or co-led by the Bureaus of Public Works. These are just some sort of hip pocket stats for you to keep in mind as you're thinking about why this is an issue in the city. Each year we lose about 225 people to traffic crashes on our streets, and that's just city streets. That is not the freeways, that's not the county roads, that's just 230 people dying just trying to get around town. Next slide. You can see we really want to get off this list. When oftentimes I get the response, well, we've got so many more streets than everywhere else, and this is just per capita. And as you see how Los Angeles measures up on a per capita basis to other cities around the country, you can see that we are well beyond where we should be and where we want to be on this list. Next slide. So our interim goal is to get to a 20% reduction in deaths by 2017. So that's next year. It's right around the corner. Vision Zero demands that we act with urgency. This is a public health crisis on our streets and something that we can really actively do some things about. So where to begin? When we look at the primary travel mode for the way people get around LA County, you see the vast majority of people are driving, about 76%, and we have about 18% of people walking and 1% of people biking. But when you look at the people killed or severely injured by mode, you see that people walking and biking are overrepresented in the fatalities that we have on our streets. Next slide. Again, when you look at, 86% of all crashes are vehicle-to-vehicle crashes, but half of the deaths are people walking and biking. And while we've been able to see decrease in the number of fatalities with vehicle-to-vehicle crashes, the number of pedestrian and bicycle crashes has stayed pretty stubbornly stuck, about 50% every year. So where are these things happening? When we looked at all of the severe and fatal crashes for people walking and biking in particular, what we found is something that is consistent with what a lot of other cities have found. About 65% of the people being injured and killed on our streets are being injured and killed on only about 6% of the overall street network that we have. This is a small and manageable amount of our street network that if we could make a difference on those 6% of streets, we could have a tremendous return on our investment in terms of saving people's lives. When we think about why, again, this is happening, overall speed is a huge predictor of where we're going to see the most severe and fatal crashes. And some of that is just physics. Our bodies are not meant to withstand a crash with a vehicle going more than 35 miles an hour. It's just not the way that we're built. But some of the reasons for this are maybe less obvious. You can see in the image on the screen that your cone of vision literally shrinks the faster you go. You can see less and less of what's going on around you. And as we have more and more people biking and walking and taking transit in the city of LA, the street and the conditions on the street are changing. And the driver's ability to literally see what's happening and then to react and respond diminishes greatly the faster they travel. So who's involved and how have we structured this? We have an executive steering committee. We have representation on the executive steering committee from Bureau of Street Services and Bureau of Engineering. We also have County Department of Public Health, LA Fire, and Police. This is really meant to be a multi-pronged strategy. It involves enforcement, education, engineering, and evaluation. And then our next slide. Here's some information from the executive directive itself. So you can see some of the action items and the participating agencies. This will require us to work together in a way that we haven't yet. We have to be more and more seamless. Things like mapping out where the Bureau of Street Services is going to be resurfacing streets in 2016 and 2017, and identifying which of those are on the high injury network, and then identifying changes that we need to make to the streets in order to reduce the number of severe and fatal crashes. So what are we talking about? We're talking about very simple things. We're not talking about massive fundamental sea changes and huge projects yet. At first, we just need to get out there right away with whatever we have in our pantry and make dinner. So that's, red paint to shorten the crossing distance. It's working closely with BOE and BSS to put in new curb ramps. It's changing the signals to literally allow people walking to get a head start in the crosswalk before drivers get the green to make those turns. And these images show, I think, really strongly the power of the paint on the street to telegraph who has permission and who is a trespasser in the road. And when we think about protecting our most vulnerable users, and that's people walking in particular, older adults and children, telegraphing that they have the permission and that the driver is the trespasser is where we're trying to get. And it's a very low cost, high impact kind of change that we can make on the streets. These are some of the sort of the resources that are available for people to go and download. We have a great website. We have all sorts of information and fact sheets. Next slide. And that this is really an important piece of this is that it's nothing new for the city of Los Angeles. This is something that we cared about for a really long time. It's something that flows through all of these documents. We were one of the largest recipients of Safe Routes to School funding in the state of California, and we'll continue to make those kinds of investments on the street, but we're not doing it fast enough, and we need to be acting with a real sense of urgency. So this is just a little bit of information where you can sort of find out more. The next piece that's coming is a very detailed dive into what we call crash profiles on the high injury network. So understanding from our public health data sets, from our trauma center data sets, from the information that we have about the environment, about the built environment, and from the crash data that we get from Los Angeles Police Department, how can we really take a laser approach to what's happening and then identify solutions and fixes and get out with a lot of urgency and speed. Some of these decisions, I talked about how simple the projects are, and they're simple, but they do require trade-offs. It's hard to put in those curb extensions, even painted curb extensions, without having a really tough conversation about potential parking spaces that might be lost, loading spaces for businesses that might need to move around the corner, how we sort of prioritize transit stops, those kinds of things. These are small, but they can be very difficult and personal to people on the street. And so it's very important to understand how this fits into the larger context, and that, some short-term pain is sort of essential to get this long-term return on the investment, which is really pretty priceless. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have about our next steps or how the Public Works is going to be involved.
Well, Salita, I'll start with, first of all, thank you. I'll start with just a couple of initial questions, and my colleagues may have questions as well. There was a story last week, I believe, that talked about how, and they talked so generally about how Los Angeles is the most dangerous place in America to be walking, and they meant county. Yes. And the news media never catch up with the county part. We see it often in street services when they talk about the pavement condition index, and they talk about the county, when the cities is higher than on average than a number of other cities around the county. There are 88 cities in LA County. So my question, because of what was misleading in the news with Vision Zero, is if we take the city of Los Angeles out versus the county numbers, do you know where the city stands?
So my recollection on those city versus county numbers is that the city has the lion's share of those numbers, but probably around 65, 70%. But the issue that you're getting at is the challenge of multi-agency governance in a place like LA County. And we're hopeful that, the city of Los Angeles going to take a leadership role here, but this should be something that we see cities of Santa Monica, Glendale, Burbank, Culver City, West Hollywood. Safety is a universal challenge, and it calls on, engineering, design, as well as, real culture change and behavior change out on the street that we only get if we work through education and perhaps enforcement occasionally. But that's the sort of long-winded answer to your question. The short answer is we have more than our fair share of those fatal crashes, but we're going to need countywide partnership in order to get to a place where we're not in those media stories anymore.
And regarding some of the items that you put into place that were featured in your presentation, but something else that I've seen, and I see it on a fairly regular basis, and that is what appears to be anecdotally a positive impact of the crosswalk, the diagonal crosswalks. Hollywood and Highland is the one that comes to mind first. Mm-hmm. And the effect that it has, could you talk a little bit about, one, what we've seen with the Hollywood Highland? I know that they started some time ago in maybe Westwood, a number of other places, but with Vision Zero, the Hollywood Highland seems to be the kind of the featured process right now. And are there other locations around the city where these are planned, and do you know how many and what the timeline might be?
Sure. So Hollywood and Highland before, this is what it looked like, what it felt like. It is perennially in the top 5 intersections in the city for severe and fatal crashes for people walking. And there was a really well done story in the Los Angeles Times that did a deep dive on pedestrian crash analysis focused on this intersection. And when you look at what's happening here, first of all, you have a high number of crashes because you have a high number of people walking, right? That's just simple math.
Big tourist area, sure.
Right, and sometimes when you see a map where there's a high number of crashes, it doesn't mean that place is inherently dangerous. It just means there's a lot of people walking or biking there. But Vision Zero is a raw numbers goal. And so I want to get to 0, and if I want to get to 0, I need to focus on the places with the highest numbers first. So what was happening is that intersection wasn't working for anybody. You had drivers very frustrated because they literally could not execute a turn different times of day because the crosswalks were so full of just huge numbers of people. You had people walking very frustrated because the drivers are sort of, sneaking into the crosswalk and kind of, trying to negotiate the space in real time. And so in order to sort of fix the problem, we put this in. So this is called a scrambled crosswalk. Sometimes it's called a Barnes dance. And this is the largest one in the city by far. And it's a good example of what you can do with signal timing and paint and make a really dramatic difference. What we've literally done here is completely separated the time when the people walking can get across the street and the time when the drivers can make their turns or sort of make it through the intersection. Trying to get to a triple win that really works for everyone. I've seen a list of about 5 to 7 more of these that are proposed around the city. And I know that we're looking at a couple of them for implementation in the near term. So, stay tuned, more to come on those. But they are a powerful tool, but they don't work everywhere. First of all, if you're driving now, it means that all approaches of that intersection stop completely while people walk diagonally across the intersection. In order to hold them for that amount of time, that's a longer period of time than if you're just holding them to cross on the perpendicular crosswalks. So there's a trade-off there in terms of delay. In this case, it's worth it. And as a driver, you're sitting there and you get it because there's always people in those crosswalks, right? So that's a sort of a balancing game that we need to play, finding places where solutions like this are the right ones versus sort of lighter touch solutions like the ones on Cesar Chavez may be the right ones.
I would just add, Salita, anecdotally on Hollywood and Highland, because I have driven it every weekday since this has been implemented.
Oh, you're an expert.
Then, so an anecdotal expert, that the trade-off was not significant for time in traffic. It just hasn't been. Because I've driven it for years before and the time after. And in the morning, most of the traffic in that area is going east to west. But the backup is not, it's maybe half a block more with this versus what it was before. So that's not much of a trade-off for the safety. And I haven't felt anything more significant going west to east in the peak hours. So my expertise is in the morning, because in the evening I'm always taking a different route home. So
Well, that's
it's not as
excellent
consistent.
feedback. We have some extraordinarily talented signal engineers in the department, and believe me when I tell you that it was weeks of trial and error to get it to that point, and we continue to sort of do that iterative process to make it work for everybody. So that I will certainly pass along. That's great feedback.
Please do. Commissioner Repenning.
Hi, Salita. I don't have any specific comments on Vision Zero other than we fully support you. I just want to say from Public Works, I think there's so much that we can do together to help you meet your goals of creating, of continuing to develop a city that supports multimodal transportation options. And I think particularly in the public right-of-way, with street trees, with sidewalk repair, the placement of street furniture, trash bins, even I think graffiti removal. I think so much of what we do can help provide sidewalks and streets that are friendly to walkers and to bikers. And so I think we're doing a massive tree planting in South LA this spring. I think we're actually going to be putting trees at the Vermont and Manchester that's on your list. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. And I just wanted to say that we're fully supportive of everything you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. Salita, thank you for the excellent presentation. You know, in a matter of 10 minutes, you've been able to break down an executive director order to really reduce it to the essential things. It's not rocket science, the simple and the laser focus that we need to have, but you also contextualize it by saying that there are trade-offs, and as the city stakeholders will need to figure that out, that some places don't have that much trade-off in terms of the impact of traffic, but businesses, there will be economic impact in terms of different things as well. But I look forward to working with you, with engineering, with our bureau, and doing whatever it takes to really see the progress. We're coming up on March, so it'd be interesting to see how we do and for 2017. But this is such an important public health issue for our mayor and our city, and I appreciate your leadership and your partnership and look forward to working with you and all our stakeholders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
I wanted to also commend you for the work that you're doing in Vision Zero. I'm not surprised, given Los Angeles and our environment. We have more of everything probably in the country, and so I'm not surprised that we have more need in which to better manage our traffic and better control our pedestrian right-of-ways. You mentioned the fact of the pedestrian crash analysis that is done, and my question to you is, in giving the data on the pedestrian crash analysis, do you take the top 10 or a certain percentage of the top and focus on those as your projects to implement solutions first?
Right, so you're asking what's a roadmap to get to this one, you know, the goal of this is that by August we have a single prioritized list of safety projects that we will all be implementing citywide. Sure. So first step is where, you know, and we map out of all of the crashes, you know, we're going to focus on the top 65% that are on these 6% of our city streets. The next step is to understand who's involved and why. Of the crashes involving people walking, about half of them are older adults and children. A lot of times I get questions like, well, this is just about people being distracted on their phones or people jaywalking. Yes, all of those things happen, but this is also about, you know, sort of our most sort of vulnerable folks who are or just trying to get across the street. And the idea is that the design should forgive when people make mistakes, because people will continue to make mistakes. So once we understand who's involved and we get a really fine-grained picture of what's actually happening. So things like left turns at signalized intersections. Left turns are always overrepresented in ped crash stats. Part of it is because of the complexity of making that maneuver as a driver. Part of it is literally the design of the car. The A-frame of the car obscures, as you're sitting behind the wheel, literally, where you might be looking to see somebody getting ready to step off the curb. Then we want to come up with, so we get our crash profiles, and then we match those with proven countermeasures. And we're focused on cost-effective countermeasures, we'll say, things that have a high return on investment that we can do quickly. And then we need to prioritize those. And when we get to prioritization, my philosophy is that it should be really easy to explain. So focusing on things like where we have a large number of older adults or children, where we are in a community that may have other sort of disproportionate negative public health outcomes, looking at CalEnviroscreen or looking at our own community health atlas, understanding, placing special emphasis on those communities where we have other negative health outcomes that we might be able to positively impact. And then just, overall raw numbers, severity. So taking factors like that, maybe there's a few others, and prioritizing the locations, and then sending the engineers out to start actually building the project. So that's kind of the roadmap to get us from here to there, but we'll be asking for a lot of input and community feedback along the way to get us to that point.
How long have we been implementing Vision Zero?
So the Department of Transportation had Vision Zero as a goal in our strategic plan, which we sort of put out in October of 2014. The mayor issued the executive directive in August of 2015. So, officially as a city since August, at the Department of Transportation, we've been kind of doing laying the groundwork on that for a little while before that.
Good. Well, once again, I want to thank you for this very, very important work. And most of all, what I like is the stakeholders that you've involved in the process that you listed in your presentation. I think all of those are critical to helping to achieve benchmarks that are going to make the difference in accomplishing the milestones that are necessary for you to get to zero. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Well, I just want to close it out by saying thank you. You obviously incredibly impressive in your command of this issue. It's a big one for our city, and it's long, long overdue. The idea that nobody walks in LA, that's just an old paradigm that really isn't related anymore to this city and what the city is and who it represents. And what I think excites me most about this conversation is that we're finally taking into consideration as a city the entire community. Driving is a privilege, and not everyone has that ability or the financial capacity in this city because of economic conditions to have that ability to transport themselves from place to place in the city. And we have to think about all of our members of our community, and this really does that in a very comprehensive way. I know in my community, there aren't as many people traversing in cars, just because financially they're unable to. And so for you to really take such a strong lead in this area is really one that is finally going to bring economic equity and equity to a lot of folks throughout the city. And so I want to thank you for this work because this is an important project. And I know I personally am committed to helping you in any way, shape, or form to help ensure that this is a success throughout all the parts of our city where we need to make this happen. But most importantly, I want to also thank the members from our team from the Bureau of Engineering and Street Services for being collaborators in this, because it's very important just in terms of ensuring that everyone in our city has access to basically getting themselves from point A to point B in a safe way. And so thank you for your leadership on this, Salita. I think it's long overdue, and you're the right person to take this forward, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The oral report will be received, although it would be improper to receive it without a shout out to Nat Gale, who helped you out with the whole process. How about that?
Yes, and by the way, Nat is newly at the Department of Transportation as our lead for Vision Zero. So you'll be seeing a lot more of both of us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, Bureau of Contract Administration, Bureau of Engineering, a quarterly acceptance report recommending the board accept the 58 sewer and 7 storm drain projects of the Emergency Sewer and Storm Drain Repair Program as indicated in the project summaries tables that are attached. Mr. Sozella.
Good morning, Commissioners. Russ Drizella, Bureau of Contract Administration. This is our quarterly acceptance report for the emergency sewer and storm drain repair projects. A total of 65 construction orders in this report utilize 17 different contractors. They were all done on time and material or agreed upon price. There were 58 sewer projects and 7 storm drain repairs in this report. The tables are in the back. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. There are no property owner issues. Everything's buttoned up and we're done.
Russ, I didn't have any questions when I looked through this. Not that I necessarily would on these the way that they're presented, which is fine, but I always like to ask, is there anything in any of these that you think we should know about that's unusual?
In the actual tables?
Yes.
Well, we stack them per contractor. You might notice that instead of time frame, so it doesn't necessarily show the way we rotate. In other words, they're all of them are by contractor, and
Alphabetically by contractor, yeah.
yeah, they're alphabetical, sir. And so actually, these contracts rotate on an on-call list. Everybody gets a turn, but for the purposes of brevity and making the report a little clearer, sometimes that doesn't come out. Is there anything particular I can answer?
And maybe my question was, but that's helpful, thank you. Anything remarkable about any of the projects that we're going to close out that we need to know about?
Nothing came to my mind or to my attention that stood out on this list. I don't remember any particular incidents that had a local emergency status other than the way we prosecute these all the time.
I always ask that question when we have a group of them that have come. Once the Bureau came to us and requested that we do it this way, it's always been a question that I asked if there's anything, because otherwise if we do them individually, it's very routine, but it wasn't always the most expeditious way. But I did always want to know if there was something unusual or remarkable about any one of them that we need to know about.
I'm looking over the names, try to refresh my memory on any of these. Nothing really stands out to me as being a particularly challenging project. Nothing has come to my attention, Commissioner. I mean, that's over dramatic about any of these. I could be mistaken, but not my radar.
Okay. Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you. Russ, thanks for the report. So, I understand time and materials.
Yes, sir.
If there was an issue with performance of a contractor, where would that be? Not that we want them, we want to...
Oh, I didn't mention that, sir. That's a standard line in this report. All these contracts, the contractors, we fill out performance evaluation reports on the individual performance. They're done yearly on the contractors on this on-call list. Though these people bid on separate projects all through the year, and if they do a separate project, they get their own performance evaluation. So those have all been filed in the manner pertaining to ordinance.
And if there ever was an issue with any of the contractors, you would bring that to the board?
It's posted on our website, Commissioner. Actually, I'd be happy to show the commissioners where it is, because you can look up the grades of any contractor you employ. And perhaps it might be a good idea if we went back, because there are many new faces on the commission now, and I don't recall covering that with anyone for a very long time. Forgive me. Be glad to help you there.
Thank you, Russ. Commissioner Davis?
I wanted to ask just an operational question. I see this quarterly report, and it appears that perhaps the final cost on most of these emergency projects is at the highest, somewhere around $300,000 and something. However, my question is there ever a time when the contractors here ever use subcontracting? on these particular projects?
Yes, Commissioner. There are subcontractors used. This does not follow our board's procedure for good faith effort and meeby-weeby outreach. The reason is these particular things are something that blows up in the middle of the night. So in order to qualify for the list, the primes don't really have a clue as to who or what they would ever need at one time. So there is that board waiver, if you will. However, they are responsible for telling us everyone who is working. They are vetted by SRI for license, insurance, and everything, and they have to have submitted that prior to closeout or they don't get paid.
Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you. Is there a motion on number 2 by Commissioner Jacinto, seconded by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any problem sending it forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, Russ. Agenda item number 3, Bureau of Sanitation, requesting the mayor authorize the board to execute the proposed agreement with the Los Angeles Gateway Region Integrated Regional Water Management Joint Powers Authority for cost sharing of the installation of monitoring equipment and monitoring pursuant to the Harbor Toxic Pollutants, the TMDL, and 2012 Los Angeles County Municipal Stormwater Permit. Alfredo.
Good morning, President, the Commissioners, Bureau Rep, City Attorney, Executive Officer. My name is Alfredo Magallanes. I'm a Senior Environmental Engineer with the LA Sanitation and Watershed Protection Division. I'm actually responsible for the LA River and Dominguez Channel TMDL implementation. A little background on this one. 2012 MS4 permit allowed the city the development of an enhanced watershed management program as well as a coordinated integrated management program. So the city was tasked or led 4 watersheds, being the LA River, Dominguez, Santa Monica, and Bayona, with over 30 partner agencies. So those were submitted to the regional board last year, 2015, June 2015. One of the things that has come about that is the city is now implementing, it's going to be implementing the monitoring program, the coordinated integrated monitoring program for the various watersheds that we lead. Again, LA River, Bayona, Santa Monica, and Dominguez. The item in front of you relates to the Dominguez Channel. The Dominguez, let me back up on that one. As part, I have item number 4 also on the agenda. As part of the monitoring program, the city and its partners, the city is allowed to contract some of the monitoring out to other agencies for cost savings or for other reasons. The item in front of you is for that reason. The Upper LA River Watershed Management Group has opted that the city contract this Harbor Toxics TMDL to the LA Gateway Regional Integrated Regional Water Management Authority, and that's what we're here for. Again, the Upper LA River Management Group includes 17 other agencies, going as far west as Calabasas and as far east as Temple City. The cost for this one, for the Upper LA River, if they were going to be doing it alone, would be $220,000. By the cost share, by us going with the Gateway Authority, the city is only responsible for $71,000. Everything is divvied up among the cities in the Upper LA River, which includes 40 cities, not just the ones in our group, but all others in the draining into the LA River. So the cost of the $220,000 is divvied up in among those. The city, again, is only liable for $71,000, $117,000.
It's divided up based on land area mass, correct?
Yes, land area. So, again, the duration is for 3 years, and basically it's what we've been tasked for. Again, we're going to be doing the monitoring. The city, or meaning the Watershed Protection, has opted to outsource this element only for the LA Harbor Toxics TMDL. Any
questions on number 3? I don't have any questions on number 3. I'll make a motion that we, along with Commissioner Repenning, that we adopt number 3. Is there a second? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt number 3. Any problem sending it forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith. I see, Alfredo, that you're here on number 4. Bureau of Sanitation requesting Mayor and City Council authorize the board to execute the proposed memorandum of agreement with 18 public agencies regarding the administration and cost sharing for implementing the Coordinated Integrated Monitoring Plan for the Upper Los Angeles River Watershed Management Area. And I would just ask, as you enter your presentation, I was unable to make the determination as to the breakdown of costs for number 4 while it was clear in number 3. Is it done on land area as well, or is there another formula? I know there was an attachment, but I couldn't open the attachment.
On number 4 is the same, based on land area,
Okay.
based on those 18 agencies. And again, like I said previously, the City of LA is going to be implementing the Coordinated Integrated Monitoring Program for the Upper LA River. Again, we have 18 other agencies partnering with us. The cost of the entire program for the 3-year duration has come out to close to $6 million. The city's portion of this is almost half of it, based on land area, $2.9 million. The rest is going to be provided by the other 17 cities, the other cost. So basically, what the city is going to be doing with this large SIMP, and again, you're going to probably see me up here for the Dominguez and my counterpart, Dr. Cox. We're going to be pushing these through the board for all 4 watersheds. This entails for the city, we're committing the city to do receiving water monitoring, stormwater outfall monitoring, non-stormwater monitoring, data management, all the capital expenses of installing the monitoring stations, the O&M of those stations, plus the program management fees. So basically, this is we're committing the city to do this type of monitoring for the rest of the watershed management group. And again, it's a 3-year duration between 15-16 to 17-18.
Hey, Commissioner Repenning.
Hi, I appreciate everything you guys are doing at sanitation to work out these agreements in collaboration with other agencies, other cities. I know that we end up being able to get more out of our dollar when we partner up in those ways. And I mean, I support this. I know that the monitoring is very important and it's required and all that, but as Wing knows, I would much rather be voting to spend money on projects that actually do the cleanup work for the watershed, but we'll get there, right? Okay, thank you.
Anything further on number 4? Is there a motion on number 4? Commissioner Repenning? I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Any problem saying number 4 forthwith? We'll send number 4 forthwith. Thank you, Alfredo. Agenda item number 5, Bureau of Sanitation, recommending the board authorize the director of the Bureau or his designee to issue a notice of award to Kennedy Jenks Consultants Incorporated to provide Bureau of Sanitation treatment plants, planning and support services in response to task order solicitation SN 35 for a total budget of $2,600,000. The duration of the task order solicitation agreement will be 2 years, beginning when the Bureau issues the notice to proceed. And this is not just, or this includes DGUP as well, but go ahead.
Good morning, President, Commissioners, City Attorney, Bureau of Representative, Executive Officer. My name is Cyrus Gilani. I'm with the LA Sanitation Wastewater Engineering Services Division. I'm the project manager for this project. This project was to award the contract to Kennedy and Jenks to provide the technical support for the DGUP project, where we're utilizing the digester gas to steam up the digester, and also to provide additional electricity for operation of the treatment plants. In addition of the DGUP project, this project will also use the same consultant to provide technical support for variety of the technical project for the 4 treatment plants on the as-needed basis. On August 13, a TOS was issued. August 20th of last year, the preliminary, meeting, pre-proposal meeting was conducted, and 10 consultants attended the meeting. Out of 10, 4 major consultants provide a proposal, and some of the proposal that we receive is combination of the different teams that team up together, provided the consultant. So Kennedy and Jenks also team up with the other consultant firm who attended the pre-proposal meeting. And the 4 proposals that we received, we interviewed all 4 of them, and a group of Bureau of Engineering and LA Sanitation interview, and AECOM was selected as a consultant firm.
Thank you, Cyrus. Recognizing that when I read the report, I know that the funding for the first year, I think, is established. Funding for the second year depends on budgeting.
That's, correct me if I'm wrong, Abdul. I believe the budget for the first 2 years is already approved with the option to extend it for additional 2 more years. That's correct.
Okay. I misunderstood that.
Yeah, well, it's $1.13 million per year for 2 years, for a total of $2.6 million, and with the option to increase it.
Oh, I'll tell you what threw me off. Funds and appropriations for future fiscal years are not yet identified, and existing appropriations may change. But we're set for the first 2 years.
So we're set for the
Got
first
it.
2 years.
Okay. I was reading that from year 1. Commissioner Rodriguez?
Good morning. So I'm trying to ascertain whether or not this was part of the original scope in terms of our projected costs associated with DGUP. I've asked Mike Cirillo previously and some of our other staff. I wanted to really understand what our total umbrella cost is associated with DGUP, and I'm just trying to understand if this was an anticipated expenditure in association with the overall implementation of that project.
Yeah, this is anticipated cost, but it is not.
Sorry, would you repeat that?
It is an anticipated cost for this project, but it's not part of the construction and design construction for the DGUP project. That project cost is separate from this one.
Okay. My bigger concern, overall concern, and I've mentioned it several times before, is that I want to get a real firm understanding of what all our associated costs are. And obviously, this is a required piece or a required element in terms of supporting the overall success of that project implementation.
That's correct.
So I don't know why I still can't get a strong handle on that number, but because I want to make sure that we are looking at all of our costs associated with the implementation of that project. I recognize the value and the importance of it, but what I want to make sure that we've got a very clear understanding of it, what are our costs associated with that implementation? And I'm constantly feeling like there's little pieces that keep coming at us from the side that we were not informed of in advance. And so while I recognize the costs associated with the actual construction, there are some ancillary project costs that I want to make sure that we are very clear on as a board.
You're referring to the DGUP project, correct?
Let me take that. Commissioner Rodriguez, we're coming before the board, I think on the 17th, to give you an update. Okay. So previously in the updates that you asked, we gave you update for DGUP, as well as all the associated projects.
Right.
But what's happening here is basically as we're going through DGUP and reviewing the designs and other things that come before us, sometimes we need outside technical expertise that goes beyond the capabilities of city staff. And that's where something like this, having this vehicle available that's been established, would help us in those kind of reviews. But the things that we know concrete for sure was the list we provided you last quarter, and we come in on the 17th to give you an update on the status of those projects.
I mean, I understand the difficult nature with such a comprehensive project, and we're endeavoring to do something that we've never done before, and I can understand that. But in terms of ensuring that we are being fiscally prudent with the resources as it relates to this project is one that really I want to make sure that we're very clear on. So to the extent possible, I really want the Bureau to be forthcoming with that information so that as a board we could really understand the gravity of all the touch points as it relates to the budget in this process. So I look forward to the presentation on the 17th. I'd like to make sure that you guys are really trying to do everything. I mean, I understand the unanticipated things that come about in a project like this. I just want to make sure that we are really looking ahead with this project in terms of the what other circumstances are we going to be looking at as it relates to the budget? Because this is something that, if we're not very mindful of, can spin out, and I don't want to see that happen here. So I look forward to following up. If you come see me, and let's talk about this, the contract, the expenditures related to this project a little more deeply.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. Really quick, on the presentation on the 17th, it would be good to project exactly when we don't have in-house capacity for certain things, that's on our radar screen. We understand that it's not like, oh, we're going to find that out. We don't know what we don't know yet. Well, we'll let you know if we need to spend more money. So I would want to second that for Commissioner Rodriguez and to ask our bureaus to be very forecasting, to understand explicitly what are the capacities we're going to need as a bureau, as collaborative bodies, to say we need this for implementation, we need this for management, so that things like this, Agatas, are not surprises or oh, we didn't anticipate that. I think that's the sort of nature of the request for forecasting and budgeting. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Anybody else? Thank you. Is there a motion on number 5? I'll make a motion on number 5, seconded with Commissioners Repenning and Jacinto. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Any problem sending it forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. We look forward to the report on the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 6. Office of Community Beautification, recommending the board authorize the Office of Community Beautification to grant Studio City Beautification Association a revocable permission to encroach within the public right-of-way to implement aesthetic improvements, which include planting drought-tolerant plants, installation of boulders, and installation of decomposed granite on 2 median islands located at Ventura Boulevard and Eureka Drive, and at the southwest corner of Ventura Boulevard and Fairway Avenue, both in Studio City. Mr. Roch.
Good morning, Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification. And as mentioned by President James, before you this morning with an adopted median revocable permission request on behalf of the Studio City Beautification Association, which is requesting encroachment permission along or within the public right-of-way on 2 median islands located in Studio City in Council District 2. One located on Ventura Boulevard and Eureka Drive, second located Ventura Boulevard and Fairway Avenue. The beautification project shall include the placement of drought-tolerant plants, installation of some decorative boulders, and installation of decomposed granite on both median islands. The Studio City Beautification Association has agreed to adopt and maintain these areas of public property and has the support of the Office of Councilman Krikorian. The association has a long improvement track record of improvement projects within the community of Studio City. Plans have been reviewed and approved by the Bureau of Street Services and Department of Transportation. Therefore, the Office of Community Beautification hereby requests that the Board of Public Works officially accept this project as an adopted median project for the City of Los Angeles and approve the recommendations as listed on the board report. Thank you.
Any questions on this agenda item, number 6? I don't have any questions. Thank you, Paul. Is there a motion on number 6 by Commissioner Jacinto? I'll second it, along with Commissioners Rodriguez and Davis. Any objection? That'll be the order. We'll adopt agenda item number 6. Any problem sending it forthwith? We'll send number 6 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Then we are adjourned this Monday morning. Thank you, everyone.